Too often in the African American community, our sons, brothers, fathers, and friends are brutally and unjustifiably murdered. Within the last year, there have been numerous fatalities, including the deaths of Michael Brown, Ezell Ford, and Eric Garner. In this special, I'll be speaking with young men who are taking a stand against accepting racism, police brutality, racial profiling, and putting in their 2 weeks' notice. Welcome to 2 weeks' notice, the boycott of injustice. I'm your host, Crystal Brockton, and here with me today I have two of the founding members of the Lock Arms movement, Malik Gould and Niall Shaw. How are you, gentlemen?
Doing great.
I'm blessed. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Malik, I want to start with you. Being a father and watching the news and seeing stories like the Trayvon Martin story and the Michael Brown story and the coverage in Ferguson, how do you feel, how does that make you feel as a father in America, a black father in America?
Initially, what comes to my mind is just seeing, the situation with Trayvon Martin. I was definitely upset about that. I was in the march. I marched down to the CNN Center. He was one at the time, my son, he was over my neck. I had him on my shoulders, I was out there, expressing my frustration. I was definitely pissed about it. But I was upset because I didn't know what to do, It's just like, okay, we marched, it's over, Zimmerman got off free. I didn't know what to do. But Mike Brown, he was assassinated in the middle of the street. And what got me was leaving his body in the street for 4 hours. And the message I got was to, if you're a black father of a black boy, be afraid, and I started to feel afraid for my 2-year-old son, so immediately I trumped that thought of fear, and I like literally, I will not fear to raise my son. In order to do that, there's something I must do about it. But that fear, just raising your kid, I get sometimes people walk up to me and say, hey man, keep doing what you're doing. I'm afraid for my son. Women walk up to me and say, hey, I don't know what to do with my little boy. And I tell her, don't be afraid, they sending that message to, as a black parent, fair to even just raise a black boy. You don't know what could happen, so, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been very hard and heartbreaking for a lot of African-American parents in America, period. Seeing how the cases have been handled. I think that a lot of people feel that the safety of their sons, even just going to school every day, has been compromised or is being seen as insignificant. Just personally, do you feel that as an African-American male in America, do you feel that your safety has kind of been put on the back burner?
What comes to mind is as a black man, you have to convince the world that black lives matter, and it shouldn't be that way, you know what I mean? Our safety doesn't matter, you know what I mean? It's you have to protect yourself, you know what I mean? It's like you think that the police officers are out there to protect, but they're the ones who, I believe the problem is the perception of the black male, so it's like, how can you have safety when everyone is afraid of you? Most of these situations happen because of the perception. The perception of the black male is just screwed up in America, you know what I mean? We have to change that. As a whole, we have to change that perception. I think we can start there.
Now, I want to dig into the behavior of some of the policemen and how they've reacted to young black youth that, like you said, are perceived to be dangerous. Personally, me and you have talked offset about your situations in Philly that you've had. I know that you grew up in Philadelphia, where a lot of young black youth are harassed. And unfortunately, these are things that parents have to deal with every day, that communities have to deal with every day. So being a young black man from Philadelphia, what are some personal things that you have encountered when dealing with policemen?
That's hard because I have so many, you know. And as a teenager in Philadelphia, in North Philadelphia, you don't really know that you have rights. You know, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. So this was normal to me, being harassed. You know, my rights, now that I'm conscious, I see that as a teenager, I didn't have any rights. That my rights were stripped from me almost every day. Just to give you an example of one that jumped to my mind of harassment, literally harassment, and it's outrageous, you know. I went to driving, you know, back and forth to school in the morning. I believe there was one instance where I was pulled over, you know, cops signaled the lights, I pulled over. They're used to, you know, people not having license, registration, insurance, so they don't even ask you. So I remember being pulled over. Hey, put your hands on the steering wheel, get out of the vehicle, get out the car, put your hands behind your back. This is normal to me. I didn't even ask for my license, registration. I didn't even say, what am I getting pulled over? Why are you doing that? I'm just used to it, you know, get out.
And it was like you didn't know at the time.
Yeah,
You're
I
just
didn't
like,
know.
let me just follow protocol
Exactly.
because
Follow
I don't want to
protocol.
get in trouble.
I don't want to get arrested, or I don't want to, you know, they're pulling me over with their guns drawn. I'm used to looking at the police officers' fingers. Their fingers never be on the trigger. This is like everyday, you know, encounter for me. Put your hands behind your back, sit in the back of the cop car. I'm in the back of the cop car for a regular routine stop. I'm in the back of the cop car in handcuffs. Search my car, open my trunk. Everything is being searched, you know. And I don't have anything. All they find is college applications and, you know, book bags and school supplies. And then they come get me, and they say things like this, like, sorry, man, you're not, you know, you're one of the good guys, man. You know, they see the school information, talk to me about school and stuff like that. I'm just like, you know, I actually talk to them back, not offended at all. Get back in my car. I remember the very next day happened again. Even though it happens like I used to say like once a month, but this time it just happened back-to-back days. The next day, same area, get pulled over, through the same process, and one of the police officers recognized me. Didn't we pull you over the other day? And I'm like, wow. Yesterday. You know, it happened, the same exact process, get in the back of the cop car, search my car. I don't know, you know, I guess that area, that's what they use as an excuse, that area, you know, but hey.
But that does not excuse the fact that, you know, as a young black man, you feel like you were merely pulled over based upon your race. And why is it, when that stuck out to me when you said that, he said, well, you're one of the good guys. Mm-hmm. What was there that said that you weren't a good guy? When he walked up to your window and you're sitting in your car, what says to him, this is not a good guy? We have to pull this guy over. We have to search his entire car. And I think it goes back to, like you said, perception. Why are young brothers perceived as young, armed, and dangerous? Why is every young black guy out here perceived to be dangerous?
I mean, it's just the way it is in America, man. It's sad. If I had to answer to that question, you know, Mike Brown would still be living. Yeah. Trayvon Martin would still be living. Perception, you get out the car, hey, he has a hoodie on. You know, hey, small confrontation, he's unarmed. Someone shooting because of the perception. They're actually afraid, you know. They think that they're defending themselves against us because of the perception, you know. Jordan Davis. You know,
and the hoodie thing is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. And that really just makes my blood boil. And I'm not a black male, I'm a black female in America. And, you know, I wear a hoodie. Yeah. Sometimes if I'm going out and I'm working out or just hanging out with my friends, you don't want to get dressed. You throw on a hoodie and jeans or a hoodie in your sweatpants and you think this is just clothing. Exactly. And now the clothing that we wear has become a target in a sense. A hoodie is automatic, that's a target. And I remember, actually I'm coming from Trenton, New Jersey, and we had issues up there where young brothers were being pulled to the side on the street and thrown to the ground because they had on white and black t-shirts. And it was like, oh, you're wearing a long tee, you know, with your baggy jeans, so you must be a problem. You must be, just a danger or a threat to somebody.
I'll take it back even further. When I was 12 years old, I got sent away to a boarding school, for 7 years. It was a school for underprivileged children. It was boarding school. I stayed on a residential environment. All of our uniforms were issued, even our, if we're going to school or if you're just chilling around the house, we had a uniform. It's called your play clothes. You couldn't wear, we call them personal clothes. Guess jeans or whatever the fashion was. We had on school issued. It had our logo for our school, and there was a hoodie that was a sign, and we started to wear our hoodies when it get cold, But it's after a while, I would say the population of the school, the demographics became, predominantly black. After the years, I remember them telling me this was a predominantly white school, but now it's changed to black, and then we would wear our hoodies. It's get cold. We're not wearing our hoodies for now. We go to this. It has a military background, so we're all in school. We're all in, educated, sports. But the hoodie and the black
signified
exactly,
something.
and they discontinued the hoodie. We have hoodies in our drawers that were assigned to us, and we couldn't wear them. They banned them, and it's issued in our school uniform, and it's just crazy, man.
Because of the negative connotation that followed with.
Yeah, it
just
reminds
the
me
simple hoodie. And it's so funny because the same thing, like I said, with the t-shirts, where I'm from, it was like if you saw a group of young black guys and they all had on black t-shirts or they all had on white long t-shirts, then they were a gang. And it was like, come on, this is just a group of kids hanging out. Why can not a group of young black guys wear t-shirts the same color and just be a group of guys hanging out? Why do they have to be considered a gang? And I'm not blind to the fact that we do have gang violence and stuff like that in our communities, but you cannot judge every single black youth based upon a hoodie or a t-shirt. So that's been a real big issue. And I know the hoodie following after the Trayvon Martin case became big, and everybody was like, this is just a person in a hoodie. So I do want to talk to you about your movement, the Lock Arms movement, and I know that you are one of the founding members, and I just want you to tell us a little bit more about your project and your personal initiative and what you guys are doing with the Lock Arms movement.
It's pretty much straightforward. Most people in the community, black, white, or any different race in America, are aware of what's going on in America as far as the division between, just American citizens and based upon race. There's a lot of, African Americans in America that's just outraged, but they don't know what to do. Even myself, I'm like, man, what are you going to do about Trayvon Martin? That's that question I ask myself. We're all mad, but what are you going to do? I didn't know what to do, so I just, sat on it, and I began to get angry. The socioeconomic war that's being take place, whether you want to believe it or not, it's just, we have to, it's self-defense. We have to stand up. It's time, and then when I found out that Mike Brown was assassinated, I just said, enough is enough, man. With his body in the street for 4 hours, we have to do something. And, that what came was the birth of the Lock Arms movement, because I think what, in the past, our leaders were silenced, you know what I mean? They were eliminated, literally. And a lot of black people are afraid to actually say it. I'm not afraid to say it. They were assassinated. They were, just eliminated by all means. Some were placed in jail. It got to the point where the United States government was found guilty for the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. People just, dang, that's messed up, but they just put it to the back of their heads. Me, I'm like, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. They are one of our most prominent leaders. They're trying to silence us as a whole. They're taking our voice. Now, my attempt is to not be aggressive, because you already know the perception. We're just going to organize and come together, you know what I mean? We're going to use organized unity as our weapon. And that's why we named it the Lock Arms Movement, because that epitomizes organized unity. We're going to lock arms together, and we're going to, instead of there's one leader, you know, that they can assassinate or eliminate some type of way, we come together. You can't eliminate, you know, 10,000 people that's thinking on the same accord. You know, we like to epitomize ants, you know, that organized unity with ants. You know, they get everything done. You can't just kill one. You have to go and kill the whole colony of ants. So and they're working together. There's probably not, you know, many more examples of better examples of organized unity when it comes to it. Did you study the you know, the anatomy of the ant?
And one thing that I love too about what you're doing in your project is that you heavily push that you are for all races. You want people of all colors, all backgrounds, all genders, you know, to come together and to just, hey, this is a community problem. You know, it's not just one racist problem or another racist problem, it's all of our problem. And I think that a lot of the focus has been taken off of it being an entire community's problem. It's not just a Black issue. It's not just a white issue. It's not just an Asian issue or a Hispanic issue. These violent crimes that are happening is affecting everyone, you know, whether people choose to see it or not. All of this is trickling down and affecting everybody.
That's why the Lock On is a fairly new organization. That's why we used our first attempt was to raise awareness. This is very important. Awareness of what are we really fighting for? You know, that's why you said all races, you know, because it's not a black and white thing. Even though America, you turn on the TV, you watch the media, you watch the news, that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to brainwash you. Actually, the United States spends billions of dollars for this to happen, turn us against each other, you know, divide and conquer. But you go into these neighborhoods, like everyone's saying, you go into these neighborhoods and you'll see that most people are putting emphasis on black and white, you know, they hating each other. So you raise awareness. It is not a black and white thing. It is a us versus them thing. You know, the power. It's the elite, the elitists. So you know, we raise this awareness that it's not, you know, us versus each other. It's us versus them. So you know, a lot of people, you got blacks hating whites, whites hating black. You know what I mean? I mean, black people, we are in a vanguard position of revolutionary change because we are the most dispossessed in this country. But however, there are not, you know, black Americans aren't the only, you know, oppressed, you know, race in this country. You got, you know, Mexican American, you got Japanese American, even, you know, poor, you say they say poor white Americans or the lower class white Americans are oppressed as well. Right. But no other race was dispossessed like, you know, the black race. So we are in the forefront. So we are the most, you know, adamant about, you know, revolutionary change because it happens to us on a daily basis. So.
And then from this angle, it all makes a star.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore.
Show up
and frustration, a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible.
And then we're gonna turn the lights and everybody look up.
I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought.
Finally won. What's your reaction gonna be? Yeah! Yeah, exactly.
And unconventional methods.
Okay, what else?
Common.
This is their world.
There's nothing.
And then they die. Go ahead, go, go, go.
I'm a teacher. I make more.
Now, Niall, I do want to speak with you about your enactment with the group and with the Lock Arms movement. I know that a big part of what you all are trying to do is really educating the youth. Do you feel as though there's a disconnect because your youth are not educated on their rights and how they're being taken advantage of in the streets? Or do you think that it's just inevitable? Do you think that this is something that young black boys will always have to deal with? Or do you think that it's just really a lack of education?
Well, in my opinion, I believe it really doesn't matter if we know what we're supposed to do, the procedure protocol, because we have several instances videotaped where we have young black individuals, not even young black individuals, but black individuals that know procedure. They're very respectful, yet their rights as a human being aren't being respected. And I think that, yes, it's integral to know what to do in situations, confrontations with the police. And yes, I think it's important to be respectful because in truth, the police are needed in the community. You know, it's just that the power dynamic that they hold is abused. And until we change the whole paradigm upon which they derive their power, it doesn't matter if we know the procedure or the proper protocol to interact with them, because at the end of the day, they have the stick. You know, they do what they want, and they'll cut the camera off so, you know, they can, you know, and then at the end of the day, it's their word versus yours, you know, and so in that case, I honestly think that, let me make this clear, that it's important to know the protocol and procedures and our rights as being American citizens, but to be realistic, I honestly don't feel at this point in time that that is enough to quell the violence that's been inflicted on us from law enforcement.
Now, Malik, I know you guys have a new project initiative that you're working on called the Lock Arms Mentorship Program. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about what you're doing with it and your main initiatives? Yeah.
First of all, we believe that what we could do to actually make a difference is reach the youth. It's very, very important. Even myself as a young teenager growing up in Philadelphia without, you know, I would say supervision. I didn't have, you know, a consistent, you know, supervisor over my life as a teenager. I could have, you know, I had no guidance. I could have went the wrong way just as easy. I could have went the right way. It was actually harder to go the right way, you know, and look what came of me. You know, I'm giving back. So it's a lot of kids in these neighborhoods. If you go back to, you know, predominantly, you know, black neighborhoods, it's a lot of kids that have no supervision, no guidance. So we believe that it's mandatory, especially for black males, you know, to have a we call it a father figure. You know, most of the Lock Arms members are males. So it's not like we're placing all of our emphasis, but we're reaching, you know, the areas of need. And it's the lack of the male influence on these, you know, families, communities. So we're stepping in, as we call it, a MMM, a mandatory male mentor.
Oh, wow, I like that.
Each kid, you know, of all races, we plan to diversify. Each even little girl, but mainly, you know, boys, you know, they need mandatory male mentors. And we're going to encourage everyone to move towards an MMF, which is a mandatory, or MFF, a mandatory father figure. You know, so we're aiming really at single parent homes. If you already have a father around the household, you know, what we'll do is, if he's not, you know, stepping up, so if we have a candidate for the mentorship program and we ask, you know, is the father present? And they say yes, we'll encourage to, you know, that father should step up and mentor, you know, their children. We're looking for the kids who have no idea of what it's like to be, you know, have a male, you know, mentor or male figure in their life. So we're stepping in, you know. We believe that if we can succeed with this, you know, project and, you know, stand in place of that male figure, it could definitely change the what's going on in the communities. Because to be honest with you, I was there, and that's where all the perception is, you know, gets messed up at, is when they're teens and they don't have any guidance, so they go out and they you know commit crimes, and they're looked at as, you know, dangerous or you know up to no good, when it's really they're lost. They don't have any guidance. So we step in, start to guide them down the right path. Those older generations kind of, you know, after over time, they're going to weed themselves out. You know, because it's easier to, you know, focus on children than to repair broken men. So we're aiming at the youth.
That's awesome. I think that that's so amazing that there's a group of you that have stuck together, and this is so important to you. And like you said, it's not just, you don't see it as a passion or something where you can gain fame off of it, or, you know, Twitter followers, just because you see it as a necessity and mandatory. Like, I love that you guys built that into the MMM and the program. You know, this is mandatory. This is something that our communities must have, and we're a group of young Black guys that are going to make sure that it happens. So I applaud you in everything that you're doing, and I heavily support all of what you're trying to do. And I strongly believe that there has to be an end, and I watch the news just as well as everyone else, and I look at it and I'm like, wow, another kid shot dead.
Exactly.
Another situation, another parent that has to go home without their child. And just when you guys went out to the schools and you kind of talked to some of the young Black youth there, what was that experience like?
It was, I would say, you know, it was gratifying. Just speaking to the kid, we went directly into the schools and talked to the counselors and the principals, and we asked directly, who are the kids in need? You know, we're not trying to just look good. You know what I mean? We really want to make a difference. You know, someone's here who doesn't have school supplies. You know what I mean? They don't even giving them what they need is one thing, but just them to see, wow, you're not like 40 years old or like 50 years old. You're like a cool guy just out of college, and you're giving me, you know, they're setting that example. It's like, I want to do that when you don't have to be too cool to do this. You know what I mean? Actually, the cool guys, I'm not saying that I'm cool, but, you know, I'm still young, and it's, you know, it's setting an example. You know, everyone can do this. You know what I mean? So I think I got that, you know, from the school. Even the principals and everybody was like, what, you guys? Wow. They were shocked, you know, but I bet you if I came in there and I was a little older and, you know, we was, you know, more so, I wouldn't say professional, but, you know, we came in as like ourselves, you know. We walked in, hey, you just want to, you know, we're on the behalf of Black Arms, but we don't want to promote this. We're really big on, we wanted our efforts to be sincere. So, you know, I think it was perceived the right way, you know.
Now, with the Lock Arms movement, what are your main initiatives? Because I know that you guys are very strong about sticking to your initiatives and what you want to push to the public and what you believe in. So what are those initiatives?
One, mental, physical, and spiritual health, well-being in general, because just like ants, an ant is only as strong as the next ant, in a sense, because if we're going to try and make an impactful change, we have to make sure that we have unlocked 100% of our potential, you know, because unless we do that, you know, there's no point. We're not giving our all. And I think that a lot of times the fact that we need to hone ourselves is overlooked because we're so focused on the bigger picture. So one of the first things that, one of the most prominent things on our agenda to do is basically to cater to, I don't want to use cater, but I wanted to raise and unlock everybody's potential through eating right. You know, simple things that we can all apply to ourselves, and just to start as the ground basis, you know, basically healing ourselves, because we can live this whole life and not know that we're sick. There's a lot of maladies with us, and not just health-wise. You know, we're still suffering emotionally from the trauma that we've been through all these years. So some of the things that I try and push, well, our group is trying to push forward, is just the use of practical things, which we have found that's helped a lot of us. Like yoga has helped me a lot. Yoga, meditation, eating certain foods and avoiding other foods, just lifestyle habits. We wanted to go ahead and not create like an itinerary or a schedule, but just offer suggestions on to how, you know, your life could run a little smoother, and also cater it towards us, because if anybody noticed that we don't really have any type of procedures or any type of programs that are just towards us, you know, and
Black men or African Americans?
When I'm saying us, I'm sorry, African Americans in general, or people of color, I should say. we're often overlooked when it comes to just taking care of yourself. You know, women with their hair and just knowing who you are. That's another part of it. Also, just being able to share the history of who we are as a people without, you know, having to have it edited by the powers that be. You know, give our story the way it should be given, the truth, and unbiased. Those are some of the most important things I think we need to do. So a lot of things that I feel like are important aren't necessarily events, even though we try and make that happen as well with the giving back to schools and making our presence known on the campuses and stuff. So, and that's so we can garner support. But what we really endeavor to do is to find ourselves first. And that way, when we all come together, you know, it's like, what's that principle called? It's escaping my mind right now. But when everyone focuses on one goal and all of our potential is unlocked, you know, we shoot for the stars, you know.
And when you're very focused on that one goal and you have a group of dedicated people, you will reach those stars.
Exactly.
I'm a heavily believer in support and having a group of people that are dedicated. And I think that's one of the main issues that groups that try to evoke awareness in their communities deal with is the following. It's to really get people together like, hey, we have to stick together and we have to continue to stick together. This is not just a one-time thing. Okay, someone was shot in our community, now we have to go out and we rally, and then after the news and everybody else simmers down, we're done too. I think that you have to continue to push for change. You have to continue to show up in your town hall meetings. You have to continue to show up at your children's school. Be aware of who your kids are around. Be aware of who you're around. Just overall, we have to be dedicated to change.
Yeah. In our beginning efforts, what I found out a major problem was just getting out there and getting our feet wet. That some people feel as though it's not their responsibility. I've talked to some people and you know, they congratulate me. Hey, Malik, I love what you're doing. And I'm like, you know, lock arms is for us all to do something. You know, they say, man, but you having a passion, and I take that as I get offended. This is not my passion. My passion wasn't to fix a problem that's greater than myself. I want to be a successful business owner. You know, I want to teach my kid how to play sports in high school and, you know, be an athletic scholar. You know, this isn't my passion. I have to step beyond and be, you know, above and beyond to go and try to take on, you know, what my forefathers were fighting for since the beginning of, you know, the birth of this country.
It's not a passion, it's a necessity.
Exactly.
And so I totally agree with you on that and identify what you're saying, because people, some people just look at it as, just like I said, like a project for the time being, and it's not. This is going to be a continuous, life-changing thing that everyone has to come together and want to do.
Yeah, you know, I think if we start just everyone taking responsibility, instead of just saying, yo, that's your passion, you know, more so saying, you know, this is our responsibility as a whole. I can't do it by myself. What I'm lock arms is to help everybody start to feel responsible for this, and even just your small contribution. A lot of people think that my small contribution wouldn't help, but that's the wrong mindset. You have to change your mindset. I think everyone who believes that there's a problem going on, any color, any race, should push towards some type of revolutionary change. You can call yourself, we promote people to be, you know, somewhat of an activist. Everyone should be somewhat of an activist in some type of way. That's locking arms, that's everybody moving towards the same accord.
To piggyback off of that, I just had a thought I definitely needed to share. It was one thing that I encounter a lot when I talk about this group is the hesitancy for people to affiliate themselves because of our passion for our people. And my reaction to that is always the same. It's if one knew who they really were, where we really came from, in our true current situation, it couldn't but evoke some type of passion, because right now it's like the majority of people, not just Black Americans, but the majority of people are living like in a semi-conscious dream state. And we have a tendency to always look forward to what's going to happen or look back and seeing what has already happened. And rarely do we ever focus on the present. It's a gift. We're right here. We can do something about this. And that is one of the issues that I have with a lot of the people that have questions about, well, I don't want to be deemed a radical, or, you know, some people come to me and some people call me a radical. If having passion about my people, and not just my people, but humanity in general, because I don't make those separations that people do. It's like black folks, Spanish folks, white folks, to me that's all like branch, leaf, roots. It's the same tree, you know. So
I say that often as well. I understand when you use the tree idea, I say that to myself often. You know, this is our world. We all have to live here. We all have to eat here. We all have to breathe here, sleep here, work here. We have to work together to maintain a healthy balance. I don't know how much more we can push that to the community, because if we don't maintain that balance, we have nothing. Dealing with people who are considered content with the status quo is the hardest part. And we just have to continue to try and break the mold here. Where can we find you all online? I know that you probably have some social networks and things like that and followers. So where can more people join the Lock Arms movement?
We use today technology, social media. It's amazing the things you can do, you know, the people you can reach at a short period of time. So we're flooding social media right now. Facebook, the Lock Arms Movement page. You just type in Facebook, the Lock Arms Movement. You could find out everything that we're doing online. You'll be able to see us. All you got to do is like the page, and we're going to flood you with everything that we're doing in ways that you can, you know, get involved. If you don't know how to, most people don't know how to, you know, get involved. What could I do? Go on the Lock Arms page, the Lock Arms Movement, and just basically you can go from there. You know.
Great. Thank you so much, guys, for coming
Thank
and
you for
speaking with
us.
me. And I look forward to following and being a part of the Lock Arms movement as well.
all right, sis.
Thank you.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Clark Atlanta University students and faculty gathered together in lieu of the grand jury's decision not to indict Officer Darren Wilson in the fatal shooting of Michael Brown. CAU administration encouraged students to rally peacefully and obey law enforcement while grieving.
I am equally confident that we here assembled are also concerned about the violent and damaging reactions of some to the grand jury's decision. No matter your or my perspective on the decision, it is incumbent upon all of us to respect the rule of law. Nevertheless, it is also incumbent upon us, in the spirit of the CAU and the AUC legacy of non-student or non-violent student activism, that we peacefully demonstrate our concern about processes, policies, and laws that tend to impact people of color in more deleterious ways.
Our hearts are heavy. Our hearts are full of pain, full of grief. We are disturbed, dear God, that we have been discounted yet again. But dear God, we know that you are a God who loves us and who will carry us through, God, because we were created in your image, dear God. And so we know that our lives do matter, Lord.
I was born by the river in a little tent, and oh, just like that river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come.
I said serve and protect. Not pull out a gun on an unarmed citizen, scratch that. Not pull out a gun on an unarmed teenager and shoot six times and call it self-defense. Did you know he was 18? Nah, you told the jury he was like Hulk Hogan and you felt like a 5-year-old. Damn right he was a giant, had a heart of a giant, had a heart of a lion, just like his daddy. That's why you had to take 6 shots to defend, huh? 6 shots to defend. How long are we going to pretend and act like the Emancipation Proclamation gave us color folk freedom? Justice, we gotta wake up.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education. So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
You can be a reader, tutor, or mentor too. Take the pledge at liveunited.org/volunteer.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Crystal Brockton, and I'm here with co-founder of Amarna Studios, Taharka Dumasani. How are you, Taharka?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with me today.
Appreciate you having me.
Regarding your project that I'm so excited to talk about, as well as your move from California to Atlanta and your personal experiences with racial profiling, seeing as you saw it from both regions. And I know things are kind of different in California than they are in Atlanta. Talk to us a little bit about your experience with police and racial profiling and how it kind of led to your project.
My experience with police was adversarial always. I mean, I came from a smaller town in California. It was heavily gang related. So it was always adversarial. They saw, black and brown youth as villains. You know what I mean? So it wasn't any particular event that led to this project, but I can say that there was one event that will always stick out in my mind, where my brother and I went to play Madden at the homie's house, and he lived kind of like on the eastern side of Merced. It was a decent side of Merced. It wasn't a bad side, but after we left, we wrapped up our Xbox, took all of our controllers and stuff, and went back home. But we gave the other homie a ride to his house, which was further into town, like near this area called Bear Creek, which is like a really wealthy, affluent side of town. So on the way down Bear Creek, after we dropped him off, my brother looked in the rearview mirror and was like, "Yo, who's that? Is somebody following us?" It was like a caravan of cars. And I was like, "I don't know. We about to find out." As soon as I said that, probably about a dozen cars came out like in formation. It was crazy. And they they surrounded our truck. And I just remember hearing over the intercom, "Driver, turn off the ignition, turn off the ignition. Driver, open the door and throw the keys out of the door." So I did that. "With your left hand, come out, keep your left hand up, keep your right hand up and back up." It was like we were playing like a game or something, put your right hand in, put your right hand out, all that nonsense. And so I'm backing up, I'm following his instructions, and I just move like this, just a little bit, and I hear like everybody rack around in their guns, clack, 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 about a dozen cats. Then they rush me, tack me to the ground, and they're cuffing me, and they got a shotgun at the back of my head. They take my brother.
With no reasoning.
No reason at all. They take my brother out of the passenger side. They got a, assault rifle to the back of his head. We're just looking at each other like, "Yo, it's curtains," because, we're black, we're young, we're male, and we're on Bear Creek
which was, they were always looking for stuff on Bear Creek. So after they realized we hadn't done anything, they were looking through our phones, they were deleting our contacts, taking down our contacts. They lifted the part of the truck up. It was a Yukon, so they lifted this thing up. I didn't even know it could do that, but they lifted the window up, and they were doing stuff on that car I didn't even know you could do, taking the floorboards out just quick. And all they found was Madden and an Xbox. You know what I'm saying?
Now, deleting your contacts out of your phone, I mean,
I don't know.
There's no search warrant. There's nothing. So what are you thinking at this time while they have your phones? You're still on the ground with a shotgun to the back of your head. Like, how are you feeling at this time?
Angry. I was angry. And I was afraid for my brother's life. I really wasn't afraid for my life, but I was afraid for my brother's life because he's younger than I am. You know what I'm saying? He shouldn't have to be experiencing this. But another thing that was interesting, that since we were on Bear Creek, most of our professors were also on Bear Creek, looking out of their windows, looking at us. My brother, in particular, had a professor that recognized him like the next day.
So you guys
in
have
class.
witnesses.
Yeah, and what was cold was that she was actually afraid of him from that point on. She didn't see it as an issue. She saw it as just as a validation for her fear. You understand what I'm saying? So it was interesting.
And not knowing that you had done nothing wrong.
Nothing.
He had done nothing wrong, but automatically she sees two young black men with the police, and it's automatic threat. They must have done something wrong. I'm afraid.
The same assumption, the Michael Brown assumption, the Trayvon Martin assumption. Of course the cop was right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So after that situation, I know you had to be thinking in your head, there's something that I can do to change things. And did that kind of inspire your project and what you're working on now?
Actually, what inspired the project more so than that was this report that came out. The Malcolm X grassroots movement released a report that stated that I think it was one African-American man, woman, or child dies. Now it's every 28 hours. Every 28 hours.
And I know that some of the statistics before have reported that it's 2 people a week.
Yeah.
2 African Americans a week were actually shot in the U.S. between 2006 and 2012.
Right. So numbers like
unarmed African Americans.
Yeah. Numbers like that are what inspired the film, The Third Reconstruction, which we're excited about. It's really a film that examines who we are as a people. I think the analogy I use, I'm a gamer, hardcore gamer, and one of my favorite games is Mass Effect. In Mass Effect, I'm gonna keep this short.
Good game.
In Mass Effect, you get this character, out the gate you get this character, default setting, white dude, right? But you have the option to make him black, you can make it a female if you want. You have all these options available to you to make this character become whoever you want them to become. My argument is that as a people, if we were that character, somebody else took the controller from us and took all those settings and was like, okay, you're gonna be inside, you're gonna be what we want you to be. Mentally, you're gonna be what we want you to be. Spiritually, we're gonna be what we want you to be. So the movie examines who we actually are, what we've become since slavery, what we've been engineered to be. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot. We have anger issues that we don't understand. We have desires that we don't understand that are actually, these desires are engineered. You got kids shooting each other for shoes they can't afford. It's an engineered desire.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. That's very interesting and neat how you came up with the idea for your film through a video game.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because a lot of people will say that some video games are negative. And they present so much negativity, especially ones with guns or fighting. And you took a video game like that and actually thought, hey, what can I take from this? What positivity can I take from this and create something that's going to create awareness? So I think that's great. That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Now, with your project, what are your main initiatives with the Third Reconstruction film? What do you hope to really get out to the public?
Well, with the Third Reconstruction, we really just want black people and African people all over the globe to understand that we're one people. You see brothers and sisters in America, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, it doesn't matter where. We are stretched all over the globe for a number of reasons. And not all of us, we don't all see each other as one. So that's one of the main things we want to do is help our people understand that we're one people. And when we understand that we're one people, the word minority will be just as bad as the word nigger, because we're not a minority. There's over 1 billion of us on the planet. You understand what I'm saying? So that's one of our first things to do is help us understand that we're one. Next is to help us understand that we're messed up. One of the things that we cover in the film is genetic memory. Okay. So scientifically, it's been proven that we all have genetic memories that we inherit, experiences that we inherit. So there have been studies done in Europe where a mother who's pregnant will experience famine or cold, and through her traumatic experience, it's transferred to the child. So the child has this aversion to things like famine and cold built in. You have experiments with rats where these rats will experience fear, and the trauma from that fear will be, passed on to the child. So we all know what kind of things were done to us during slavery, the things we saw, the things we survived. You know what I'm saying? For us to believe that that trauma wasn't passed on, that we don't carry that, the pain of that, the anger, nah. So as a people, we need to understand that we carry pain that no one else can relate to.
So with the third Reconstruction, I'm getting that kind of your entire goal for the film and the project is to help Black people, African Americans, to kind of reconnect themselves with their roots.
Yeah, and that's the reason we call it the third Reconstruction, because it's a reconstruction that hasn't been executed yet. We've had the so-called first Reconstruction, the so-called second Reconstruction, the Civil Rights era. The third Reconstruction is an energetic, spiritual, mental Reconstruction, where we understand what's been done to us, not only on a physical level, but on a mental and a spiritual and energetic level. Okay. So we look at things like quantum theory, genetic memory, things like that.
I do want to ask, when you are dealing with such a powerful film and a project that you're, just coming together and you're putting it out, your thought process for eliminating the mentality of the way people are thinking in today's day and age, and kind of people that are being content with the status quo and what's going on, what are some creative ways that you kind of plan to use your film to break that?
I think juxtaposition is a powerful thing. When you show one paradigm and then juxtapose it with another, it's powerful. Like we have to have a frame of reference to even understand what somebody's talking about. So if I were to just approach people and say, you ever heard of genetic memory? They won't dig it. But if I give them an example of the kind of things that we've all experienced, the kind of things that, there are fears that Black people have that are developed, that are engineered fears. We all kind of clench the steering wheel tight when a cop rolls up behind us. That's a learned, engineered response. You know what I mean? And it's not just Black people. White people have genetic and engineered responses too, superiority complexes that are, the exact opposite of the inferiority complex that we have. So one of the things that we want to do to help people understand what we're trying to say is to not talk over them, make it plain. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to use all these huge words like quantum theory and epigenetics. Nobody's going to dig that. You know what I mean? I don't want to talk over people. Anything we market is marketed to the hood. You know what I'm saying?
Very interesting that you say that as well, because a lot of people feel that way. They feel the same way, that there's kind of been a loss of direction, in a sense, in the Black community. And there are a ton of people just like you that feel like they're constantly fighting to gain that back. Yeah. So I definitely appreciate your project and what you're trying to do. And I strongly believe in unity in any community, any race, any whatever color you are, whatever background you come from. Unity is, to me, the end all, be all when it comes to ignorance. And that's really what has been going on. That's what's controlling all of this violence, all of these negative things in our community. It's a lack of unity.
And I think another thing that we want to do to make sure that our people understand this, and to sidestep some of the mindsets that are so prevalent now, is to understand social engineering. People don't like take for example Chicago. People aren't just gunning each other down because it feels good in Chicago. Kids don't just kill because they want to kill. You understand what I'm saying? There is a social engineering mechanism that's been in place in America for hundreds of years.
Do you feel that it's because there's a lack of knowledge? Or do you think, because I think that some people feel that it's laziness or, people just don't want to be involved, but I find in my studies that a lot of people are just not knowledgeable on what to do, on how to become involved. Where do I go to, attend my town hall meetings? What politicians do I contact? How do I make a difference?
Not only are they not knowledgeable, but they're not interested. A lot of us aren't interested in the truth. And the truth is that we do have, like, it's easy to be like, yeah, the vote don't mean nothing. It's another thing entirely to be like, well, your vote will mean something if you place the candidate. Like what happened in Jackson, Mississippi a couple of years back with Chokwe Lumumba was a beautiful thing. They took Chokwe Lumumba, who was a legend in the conscious community. I mean, he was a legend, and they created this atmosphere through which he could become the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. He was installing co-ops, people like grocery stores that are run by the people. He was doing some beautiful things, and he came down with cancer in the same way that Hugo Chavez came down with cancer. But he's gone. He's gone now. And for some reason, black people act like like Jackson never happened. Like we never took somebody from the ranks of the people and elevated them to become our leader and our mayor, so that they could wield this legislative process like it's supposed to be wielded. You take Google. Google, when you look at Google's their election spending, they spend 50% on Democrats and they spend 50% on Republicans. It's not because they believe in the Republicans or the Democrats, it's because they see these cats as the puppets they are. They're not people, they're hoes. You know what I'm saying? And they're supposed to be treated as such. You pay for a hoe. You know what I'm saying? I don't condone prostitution, but you pay for a prostitution like you pay for a hoe or a prostitute. They do what you tell them to do. And that's always the way it's been, So I think black people need to be honest about the legislative process. We need to be honest about our power, because I think that's what we're afraid of, power. It's always been something we're afraid of.
Very powerful statement. Thank you so much for speaking with us today, Tarika. And one more thing, can you tell us where we can find you and where we can find and follow the project, The Third Reconstruction? Yeah,
you can go to Taharka Dumasani on Twitter, reconstruction3.com for The Third Reconstruction. And we'll be rolling out a crowdfunding campaign for the studio through which we'll produce the film. So look for Amarna Studios here pretty soon. And we'll be doing a crowdfunding, holistically, that will apply those funds to our projects, and Third Reconstruction is one of those projects.
Great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Crystal Brockton, and here with me I have Officer Chief Thomas Trawick, who is the Chief of Police at Clark Atlanta University. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I wanted to speak with you a little bit about what's been going on as far as police protocol. I know that a lot of the speculation and concern with the Michael Brown case was how the policemen acted in a time of fear. Are there any particular tactics that you all are trained to use in a time of fear with your officers?
Well, yes, we do. We have what's called the force continuum, and it clearly outlines what processes you should take when you're confronting a person who might be a little hostile or might be overly aggressive. And with the force continuum, it goes from articulation of what it is that you want the person to do, all the way up through the use of deadly force.
With the backlash that police officers have received involving the recent deaths of Black youth, how do you feel when you're in your community and you're trying to protect and serve and you have people that say, well, I don't look at you as a hero anymore or someone that is here to protect me. Now I'm fearful of you. How do you feel about taking steps to kind of reestablish that relationship, to let your community know, and in your case, your students know on your campus that, hey, I'm here to help you. You know, I know that you guys combat a lot of that good cop, bad cop.
Absolutely.
Type of ideals. So how do you combat that?
Well, first of all, you have to establish a rapport with your community. And quite often I let the students know here, and it actually starts during the admittance days. I speak with the students, with their parents, and I let them know that they're my students, they're my kids, and I have a vested interest in their future. And we have to eradicate the us against them mentality that exists. And the only way you can do that is, first and foremost, you have to have a diverse workforce. Police departments are mandated to represent the communities in which they serve. And what I mean by that is if I have a community that's 60% African American, 35% majority white, and maybe 5 or 10% other, then my department should be representative of those nationalities.
Right.
It's very hard to police if you don't have commonalities with the people you serve, which creates some of the situations we've seen.
So as far as building a diverse group of people, I kind of guess, or a diverse police force, how do chiefs deal with, you know, we don't have enough Hispanic officers, or we don't have enough Black officers or Asian officers? How do you think that, what are your struggles in trying to build a diverse police force?
Well, there are no real struggles. It depends on the administration. There's more than enough competent individuals of which you can go out and recruit. The driving force would be the administration for the police departments, because they control not only the culture, but they control the recruiting process. So if the chief of police, which is the chief executive officer of that police department, has the intent of diversity, well, it's going to happen. If that person does not have the intent, well, it won't. So you have to go after those communities, because, as you know, there are a lot of colleges, high schools, et cetera, who are graduating more Hispanics, graduating more African Americans, so on and so forth. So in my opinion, it's an excuse to say that you can't, when the actual recruitment process does afford for diversity.
So it's not actually just the attitudes of the officers that matter, it's also the attitudes of who is in administration and running these offices.
Oh, absolutely. They have direct impact on the outcomes.
I did want to touch on when you said you treat your students as your kids, because I know a lot of students, they do look up to you on campus. And do you think that that changes the way you handle your students when you have an incident on campus with a young Black youth? When you look at them like, this is my son, this is not just a suspect. How do you think that's altered the way you handle incidents on campus?
Well, first of all, the students realize that their rights are going to be protected with the first encounter. And, you know, unbeknownst to many, of course, I provide my cell numbers to my students. In the event my officers aren't carrying out the mission in which I've set in place. So that helps as well. And it also helps because they're not as combative. If they know that we're responding, they know that they're going to have a chance to voice or articulate their side of the story. And I say it all the time, just because an event or an incident might have occurred, they're normally contributing factors. So what we need to do is sit down and ascertain what actually occurred, and then go on and move forward. Right. If criminal arrest has to ensue, well, then it has to. But at least the offender knows that his or her rights were protected and they weren't taken advantage of. And I think that's vitally important in every community.
And we were talking about that earlier with two of our young gentlemen that were here, was knowing your rights and kind
Absolutely.
of knowing that you are a person. You
Yes.
have rights, and you need to know those rights so that
Yes.
they're not taken advantage of. I think that's very important. It's a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
And being on a college campus, have you kind of tried to instill knowledge in your students and letting them know what are their rights and how to deal with an officer when they're approached?
Well, absolutely. Not just my students on campus. You know, I have 3 sons. I have a 24-year-old, 23-year-old, and 20-year-old. And oddly enough, I have to tell my young men, my sons, my actual sons, what to do when they encounter a police. And moreover, I have to tell them to make sure that they identify and let the officer know that their dad is a chief of police. Because at that point, they're going to treat them a little different. They're not going to treat them in the manner in which or violate their rights as maybe it could occur with an African-American male who isn't affiliated with law enforcement. So with my students here, we have forums, and I meet with my female students and male students. We have conversations. I bring them over to my office. We sit down and we speak of, first of all, trying to get more African-Americans in law enforcement. You can't change the culture by sitting on the sideline. You have to actively participate with the process to change it. That's why I became a police officer. I lived in Miami and I saw brutality. And I figured the only way that I could eradicate it was to become one.
I think that's awesome, and that's great that you say that, because a lot of people are looking at police as, you know, there are no good cops anymore. You know, he didn't join the force to help us. You know, he or she, they joined the force to destroy us. So I think that your reasoning for joining, and that you've been there, you've been in these communities, you know what goes on oftentimes in urban communities. I think that that's awesome, and that you let your students, and, you know, like you said, you speak to your sons about it every day. You know, I've been here. I can relate to you.
Absolutely.
I think that's the most important thing that a policeman can do, is to be relatable.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, you did touch on your sons kind of, when they're out and about, them saying, hey, my dad is an officer, it kind of may save them from certain treatment. But not every young man is lucky enough to have a father that is an officer. So what would you tell young men who are not fortunate enough to have a dad as an officer? What are some things that you would tell them for how to deal with encounters with a policeman?
Well, first of all, upon a traffic stop, let's say it's a routine, which no encounter is routine, but if you're in your vehicle, make sure you pull your windows down if you have tinted windows. Ensure that your hands are visible. Do not become combative. You cannot win with a police officer, because for everything that you do, we have a criminal charge that we can place upon you. Be very cooperative, be willing to follow their instructions. If they approach the car, you leave your hands on the steering wheel and you ask them, sir, what do you want me to do? Be very respectful, be very kind, and just follow their instructions to the letter. And if they ask you a question, answer it without being sarcastic, because you don't want to elevate that officer's attitude, and you don't want them to start looking for things. The nicer you can be, the easier the encounter will go. And then, of course, if you're smart, you'll thank them after the encounter, and you will be able to proceed on.
Okay, that's great. That is great feedback, and I thank you for coming in with us today and for sharing your knowledge, for protecting our Black men out here as well, for being a role model in the community, and for being a great teacher, because I think that that's big. And the fact that you actually take out the time to teach your students on your campus is awesome.
Well, you're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
This has been 2 Weeks Notice, the Boycott of Injustice. Again, I'm your host, Crystal Brockton. Thank you for watching.